Hey, Julesblessedvegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. People, 4 years today. What? It is my happy 4th birthday for Julesblessedvegan. Oh my gosh. I can hardly believe it. For the first 3 years, I'm sure I did a video every day, and even more than one, depending on the occasion. And this last year, it's been a little less than that, a couple times a week, or more, depending on what I'm doing. And and that's okay because that's kind of just where I was. I wanted to make sure that I was being authentic when I shared and wasn't just sharing out of obligation, because I think you can tell, whether someone is shining or truly enjoying it. But yeah, 4 years. So it's been a really interesting 4 years. I've been through a lot in that time. I was kind of just reflecting on that today. I just can't believe it. But just like I'll kind of share some of my stories. So I'd been really sick starting in like 2010. My kidneys were failing. I didn't realize that I was poisoning myself by having a contradiction between two medications that I was taking. I was taking like 10 medications until I found out that my kidneys were literally at a 32 GFR, if you're familiar. And I have a video, if you go up to my search bar, I have a video on many things that I've been blessed to recover from while I've been plant-based and raw vegan completely for much of the time. And so anyway, I was having kidney failure. I had familial tremor with a shaky hand. My asthma was through the roof. My periods and fibroids were insane, like all of it. And I just wasn't informed enough to realize that it was my food. And finally, I got super, super sick where I just couldn't keep anything down. And so for a while, I was just drinking vegetable broth and eating really simple because I was just so sick and I had no choice but to show up for work and to teach. And so I just started kind of naturally looking for the better way. I didn't really know how to go about it. I wasn't familiar with vegan. I was barely familiar with vegetarian. I'd never really been a milk person in pure form. I had milk in things, but in pure form, I had never been an egg person. And so I was just trying to find my way. And I kind of did little things in increments. So instead of cow cheese, I went to goat cheese because I heard it was healthier. Instead of yogurt, I went to Greek yogurt because I heard it was healthier. There were just little things like that. And I was kind of like tripping my way. And a little bit of things were improving. I got off all medication to save my life. The doctors were like, well, no, you could take a little poison, just have a little less poison. And I'm like, that's a hard no. I want to live. I'm going to get off all medication. And, for all those years, and it's been, about 11 years, I guess it'll really be 11 years on like December 10th. I absolutely got off of all medication and against my doctor's orders. But I had to. I knew it was the right thing to do. And I just started using either heat or ice, when I had pain. As it turned out, as I got into eating, plant-based, I never had inflammation or pain in my body anyway. So it was a tremendous blessing. But what happened was finally, I was just cruising through the internet and I came across Tanny Raw. And if you're not familiar, you can look up Tanny Raw on any social media platform for health. And she was just super funny and cute and clever and knew her stuff regarding food. And she was very humble and just amazing. And so I just started secretly watching these Tanny Raw videos. I didn't talk about going vegan to my family or my husband or anybody. They would have laughed me out of the room because I was eating, triple cheeseburgers with avocado and bacon, and I didn't think anything of it. I didn't eat meat all the time, but when I ate it, I ate it. I could eat half a slab of ribs or whatever, And my husband and I, we were just food warriors. We binged our heads off, to our heart's content together. And it was a really big part of our relationship, to our detriment, but still. And so finally in like October, I think I said it was October of 2017, I started to watch, a bunch of different videos. Again, Tanny Raw was one of them. The plant-based, is it called the plant-based? The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, which was a really cute lady who had a couple of daughters and her husband. They all went plant-based together. I watched a couple of the super popular documentaries at the time, which was What the Health. It was a major one. Forks Over Knives, a major one at the time. And then there were other ones that had come out before that, like Cowspiracy. So I really got into, for the first time ever, even considering that my food choices would be damaging other sentient beings. I was not really familiar. I came from a mindset of, hey, live and let live to a degree. God gave us dominion over the animals, so of course we can eat them. Hey, as long as you're kind to them while they're here, what does it matter if you're going to slaughter them? There was a lot of that going on. So I really watched Tanny Raw. I found Fully Raw Christina at the time. I found, of course, like I said, it turned out Forks Over Knives actually has a group. The Whole Food Plant-Based Diet has a group, like all these groups, and I just started getting into all of it. I was most impressed by Tanny Raw, and I found out that she had a coaching program. And I thought, I'm going to call that girl. So I talked to my husband. He was like, oh, guy, how can you trust her? You don't even know she's real. What are her qualifications? I was like, I don't care. I just want to talk to this person. So as a gift to myself, it was literally on January 3rd of 2018. Would that be right? I think so, 2018. It might be right. But anyway, I think that's right. I'm just trying to do the numbers in my head. Anyway, I went ahead and spoke with Tanny Raw, and I bought her little package where you could talk for 1 hour with 2 half-hour follow-ups. I really just spent that hour telling her how great she was. And she had to keep saying, could you stop? I have real information I need to tell you. And she had what was called the Raw Reset. It was this 30-day program where she just introduced everything that mattered. And again, if you go up, I have an overview of all of that in my search. Everything about how to adapt to a plant-based, let alone vegan, let alone raw vegan diet. And so for the next, 3 years, well, it was the first I did that little thing, and then it took me like 6 months to kind of reapproach it because I was so overwhelmed by even talking to her. I was so overwhelmed by the idea of changing my life and actually going vegan or raw vegan. And so it was in July of 2018 that I did my first reset. And again, it was a mile a minute, a lot of things I didn't understand, kind of overwhelming. And in that, she really encouraged people to go ahead and get a Facebook page, to go ahead and get a YouTube page, to get an Instagram page, to reach out to like-minded people. And so that was in July. And finally in October, September 22nd, today, I finally thought, I don't care what it looks like, I'm just going to start a YouTube page. I'm going to start an Instagram page. And I went ahead and started that, and I did that tiny little clip that if you come on my page, you always see that clip that says, hey, it's Julesblessedvegan, welcome to my channel. I did that little clip in my kitchen, and I thought, Tanny told everyone they have a story. You've got some story to tell your story. Perfectly imperfect. And so I went ahead and did it. And for the last 4 years, if you've been in and out or around, I've been telling my story, and it's a little bit of Jules for my daily life. It's a little bit of blessed, or even a lot of bit of blessed, because my faith is a huge part of my life. And I actively, rely on God and all of the heavens for my daily life. And then, of course, vegan. And I just started telling that story, and it's been such a ride. And what's interesting is a lot of people have come and gone in the communities, and it's been interesting for me too, because I've been trying to find my way. I was introduced to diehard vegan, raw vegan lifestyle, and I was never very successful with it. I always try, but I tend to falter. But then I get up and try again because it's just the better way. And, if you go up and see the things that I've healed from, it's astounding. from severe migraines to the asthma to the, like I said, familial tremor to the list just goes on and on. I mean, the acid reflux, the, GERD, I'm just trying to think of like all the things. Any skin situation. My eyes turned blue. Just kidding. They were already blue. but they're more blue. I mean, because there is a thing about eyes getting clarity. Just so many fantastic things. Hair. I used to like literally just have clumps of hair missing, and I just have so much hair. They're like, there's just been so many benefits. It's insane, and I'm just so happy to share all of that. But yeah, I've thought it's been interesting to kind of find myself in this program because there's just so many different avenues. You can be junk food vegan, where you can literally have, I don't know, Ruffles potato chips, Oreo cookies. There's so much stuff. All of the fake meat burgers, all those things. You can have them all. But that's kind of junk food. Like, sadly, even though it's not killing any animals, it may kill you sooner than you should from the chemicals and things that it takes to make, right? So from that to just plant-based, which means the whole food, yet actually consuming the whole food. And no sugar, no oil, no salt, right? And from that to raw, where you literally don't have anything over 118 degrees. And if you do want something fun like that, it's probably in a dehydrator. And, it's just levels of commitment because it really does take a lot of prep, but there's a beauty in the prep. There's a lot of beauty in the prep. And I've learned so much and I've faltered so much, but ultimately I have lost a lot of weight and kept much of it off. And I did allow myself to gain some weight because I was doing another thing this year where I just wanted to get past my, like, I come from a compulsive mindset. I come from an addictive mindset. And I was really into that restrictive, controlling with myself, that if I went a calorie over, if I went a calorie under, if I didn't do the right amount of steps, it just freaked me out and affected every single thing in my life. And I finally just like went for broke and let myself eat all the fruit I wanted, all the whatever I wanted. And I needed to kind of do that to get a fresh perspective. And I put on weight to do it. Like, that's just straight up. I put on weight to do it. And I know why I did. I don't think you'd have to. I think anybody coming out of restriction is going to gain initially, but their body will. It's like when you're driving a car and you put on the brakes, it still goes forward a little. Well, when you overeat like that, if it's the right food, yes, you might go up a little, but your body's going to find its natural balance. And if it doesn't, you probably weren't being truthful. And by you, I mean me. You know what I mean? So I've been sharing throughout that I had a huge struggle. I had a really dark time with food and everything for a while there. And then luckily I came out of that. And I have a super loving, generous husband who knows that rather than buying me flowers, he buys me fruit, like 25-pound bags of oranges. Or he just brought home those big Kent mangoes. My gosh, those Kent mangoes are like 5 pounds. But I mean, the seed is gigantic too and stuff, but they're so beautiful. And he just bought a bunch of those for me as a gift. Like he knows, he really wants me to be, not only be well, because many of all of my blood numbers are beautiful, but he wants me to be content in my heart. Because I've said many times on this channel that whatever my sin is, it's usually food derived. And it's because when I go down that avenue, it becomes self-abuse more than anything. And then after I'm abusing myself with food, that addictive mindset brings me down the dark road of lying about my food, hiding my food, eating my food out of the trash, misspending money that could be serving others, throwing out a ton of food. And I know Tanny Rog used to always say, don't ever regret throwing out, that food, or continuing to drive through that drive-through and not stopping for the food that you just purchased that's not going to serve you. And so many times I have done that, and I've always been grateful, much to my husband's dismay, to have the courage to say, hun, I went crazy. I'm getting rid of it. And no, I'm not a human garbage disposal. And again, if in the search is garbage disposal. I mean, there are thousands of videos at this point, right? And I love all the topics. That's a lot of what this channel is. I share where I'm at. I share what interests me, and I hope that it'll interest someone else. So, yeah, it's just been really interesting. I think the message this year has been to not overly invest in any one person, but just to know that it's a huge community. It's kind of like I want to say smorgasbord, but what are they called? I think it was a smorgasbord when I was little, or that's the Dutch term. But what's it called when you see all the food and you go and pick it? I can't believe it. But people, when I get to you, it's already midnight and I'm so tired I can't even think straight. But I always want to be with my JPV community. That's Julesblessedvegan, in case you didn't put it together. Come on, I know you're saying it for me right now. Where all the food's there and you go up and pick it. Anyway, I don't favor those. I'm not a germ phobe, but when there's a bunch of people swarming around food that's like open in the air, I'm not going. I am not going to go. Okay, Golden Corral. What is that thing? What's it called when all the food's out there for you to pick? Wow, cannot think of it. But you guys know. Anyway, I can hear you, but I can't hear you. Anyway, that's kind of the vegan community. Like, you kind of have to see the whole array and all the choices and all its glory, and then decide ultimately what is sustainable for you. It's always said that the best workout is the one you'll do. The best diet, and by diet I mean way of eating, is the one you'll do, right? Consistently, And that was another thing Tanya would always say, moment plus moment equals momentum. In that, when is it going to happen? A day shorter if you get started today. Nobody knows, because it depends on how sick your body is. It depends on how much you've been through. So for me, I'm completely blessed. My numbers are beautiful. My blood is unbelievably beautiful. Blood pressure, what blood pressure? Like, there is none. I mean, all of that is just amazing. My body temperature is usually like 96.5, 97. Like, none of those things are a problem for me. What I struggle with the most is a mindset. I get into these terrible mindsets where I start hounding myself on wanting whatever it is, whatever the junk food is. And it's usually when I'm feeling insecure or threatened by something, because it's a tool that I used my whole life. How can you get through it? Find the food, So that's my challenge. It's not about the choices. It's not about the information. It's not about the ability to learn or retain it. I have all of that in spades. But accepting myself, supporting myself, loving myself, we all have a challenge. We all have a backstory, and that's my situation, I'm so grateful for everybody that I've learned from, whether it's Lissa's Raw Food Romance, whether it is Freely the Banana Girl, who I think is the frugivore diet now. I'm just trying to think of all those guys. The Raw Advantage, which I think is Chris from Sweden. He's so great. Jack Albritton, which is... Come on, Jack. I know it's raw Advantage. Anyway, so many. JD Raw, so good. There's just so many people out there, they're just sharing their story. And of course, all the doctors in the plant-based vegan movement. Even like, there's just too many for me to even mention. But even Chef AJ, she's such a joy. There's just a lot of really good people. They don't want anything from anyone. They're literally just sharing the better way. God's way of eating. I always think of this as God's way of eating. When you go to the grocery store, everything, 76% has sugar infused in it. Everything is packaged. Everything has more ingredients than you can ever pronounce. And humbly, there's this thing called the produce section. And it doesn't come with a single label other than the scan. There's no label, because nobody needs to ask what the ingredient is in that apple, or in that lettuce or anything else. I think one of the biggest challenges in this community is that people become very zealot regarding their way, and that their way is the way. I think that's a really difficult thing. I think another thing that can be a challenge in this community is that uh, people are very competitive. They're very competitive. Like, it seems to be that there's a person of the month, and that if they dare to waver, and it's just their walk, they're just trying to find their way like anybody else. People jump on them. I mean, like vultures. Like, you're just not allowed to change. If you've proclaimed anything, you can't change. I would never go back to eating dead animals. Praise God, never. I'm not going to eat animal derived products like their bovine fat secretion, which is the cheese, or like the milk or anything like that. I'm not going to do any of that. So that's great. So for me, it's definitely, and even in my introductory video, it says plant-based vegan. Because what's interesting is vegan in itself is never going to be a food plan. Vegan is a way of supporting sentient beings who cannot speak up for themselves. But in doing that, people eat a plant-based vegan diet, which many just for short say vegan. So yeah, the vegan movement is not the food. Because like I said, you can be junk food, you can be just plant-based, you can be raw, you can be many things. It's just a matter of making sure that you're not endangering or devastating animals to do it. And many people who are plant-based are just doing it for the health and not for the animals. I'm all in for the animals. Like I said, I wasn't initially until it clicked. And it was mostly through all of those different documentaries. And again, if you go up to my search and put vegan documentaries, I have many videos where I told you like the top ones and why they're so important and why they're so good. And I just wanted to check in and tell you guys that I'm so grateful for when you check in with me. I feel super blessed. I'm so happy to have found the better way to honor the planet, to honor my body, to really just get, bang for my buck in terms of nutrients per bite. I'm so grateful for that. I am sorry. There are some people that were just terrific advocates for me that aren't in my life anymore in this program for various reasons. Either they stopped and moved on, or they decided that I was a chapter that was completed in their novel. And whether they revisit that chapter or not, I don't know. So again, it kind of comes back to making sure that you know what's true for you, and making sure that you're assessing each element that is told to you to see if it's sustainable for you. And that when it comes to loving yourself, that the main person is you. Try not to give your power away too much, to other people, because they can take it when they leave, and that can be really hard. A person let me go. Like I said, I wasn't, I was written out of the script, and it was devastating for me. And it really did affect my program. I really had to get my head around the idea that it was never about them. Their support mattered. Their seeming love for me mattered. But at the end of the day, I had to be with myself, not even my husband, not even any human. I mean, God is my higher power, absolutely. But I just had to put that in perspective, that I was doing it for me. And I realized I'd accidentally allowed myself to think that that person's support was what was giving me the ability to care for myself. And you know what? Everything's a lesson. I was sorry for that. And of course, I pray for that person and hope that they're so happy, moving forward. I'll never beg anyone to stay in my life. That is straight up. So anyway, it's been an interesting ride, you guys. I mean, 4 years. Wow. It's so short in many ways. But in other ways, I can't believe it's already been 4 years. Like, wow. So yay us, yay me. And, cheers to way more, one day at a time. All right, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how I may support you. And until we talk again, 4 years and one day, right? And know that you're blessed.